been asking for a while.
Go ahead and call to order the March 23rd meeting of the Utilities Committee. Madam Secretary, all members are present and accounted for. If we would, we'll go ahead and stand for the invocation. Be led by Mr. Ken Dawson, immediately followed by the pledge.
Let us pray. Father, we thank you for all the blessings that you bestowed upon us. And during this time and season when we honor and celebrate the death, resurrection of your Son, we ask that families gather together in that celebration. We also pray for those that lost their lives overseas during the horrific terrorist attacks, that you minister to those families. And we continue to pray for protection in these United States from all such acts, that you watch over our families, that you keep us. And as we do the people's business in Ascension, we ask for your wisdom and guidance, and we are pleased to be servants for the people of this great parish. We ask these blessings in Jesus' name. Amen.
Amen.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
If we will, the chair's going to take some liberties this afternoon. John, I want to apologize to you in the booth already. We're waiting on some staff folks to get here, but we're going to start the meeting anyway. First thing, gentlemen, is items 12 and 13. We're going to reverse those. We'll get the update on the 3P system before we go through the selection. And the other ones, as we have the staff members here, we'll cover those probably to give Ms. Bianca a little bit of time to get here and understand with the road construction outside. It's got traffic pretty well tied up. So item number 3 on the chair's edition. Last night, I'm sure like everyone else, I heard the announcement of the issue with People's Water. Mr. Dawson, do you have any information on that you can give us?
Yes, sir. Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Everybody knows the situation. It was chlorine dioxide that was found at high levels that were reported by DHH, and it ensued with an action not to drink any water or use anything for cooking. President Matassa did speak with DHH, Dr. Gidry, and basically he felt that it will probably be over maybe sometime Saturday, that they could lift it. Possibly a little earlier, but he just didn't want to see anything out to get any hopes up. But he felt that it should be taken care of at that particular point. The parish, through our OEP director, has been working with Donaldsonville in getting water to all the people that require it, and even ordering water for the National Guard, so it's been working at that extensively. So the thing is that we think that it may be an issue that will be resolved pretty soon, but DHH said that they're going to wait until possibly Saturday to clear it, but it could possibly be a little earlier.
Yeah, so the most important part is the people that are on the system know that they've been notified and that we are providing them, or they have access to water, correct?
Yes, sir. And we also want to say that, and I know there's some questions about whether or not we own the system. We do not own People's Water at this point. We have not purchased it at this particular point. All of the actions and corrective actions will be taken by that private entity, People's Water. I understand that the owner was flying down after he heard about it, and is probably on the ground now. There was a meeting held with DHH at the People's Office. They had engineers and DHH and their personnel involved to handle it. So, but we do not own the system.
All righty. Mr. Joseph.
And Mr. Dawson, I appreciate you saying that, but just people for the west side, that ACUD1, Ascension Consolidated, it is the parish, but
Right.
they know it by ACUD1. Is not affected by this.
Absolutely, sir. ACUD1 is not affected in any way by what happened.
Thank you, sir.
Matter of fact, we got some information on that system here in a little bit. Item number 4, public comment period. Anyone wishing to speak on any agenda item concerning with the secretary, when that item comes up, they'll be given 3 minutes to speak. Ms. Bianca hadn't made it in, so John, here we go. We're going to skip to item number 8, the SCADA system, for Mr. Ken Dawson.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Chairman. I think all of you know that the goal was to kind of move forward with a SCADA system in Ascension Parish to assist us in monitoring the water properties and water conditions. Several years ago, of course, last year sometime, we had a situation with a brain eating amoeba. And one thing that we found is that it ate up a lot of our staff time in just trying to make sure that things were monitored correctly. So the SCADA system is in the process of moving forward. Our goal is to get this in sometime, mid to late summer, early if possible. But we also realize that it's going to be kind of a stair-step type activity. As much of the equipment, the type of the pressure transmitters, the chlorine analyzers, the flow transmitters, and those kind of things that we'll be purchasing, we are using the CWEF grants to purchase those particular items in order to reduce costs. So we think that we're going to have a system that everyone will be proud of. Our operators will be able to be notified on their cell phones or smartphones or iPads instead of having a customer calling saying when the actual pressures may be low or there's an issue. So it's going to allow us to be more proactive, more productive, and deliver a better product to the customers.
Fantastic. Mr. Joseph.
Yes, Kent, I just want to ask you, what type of funding, how much money we're talking this system going to cost us? I know you say it's coming from a grant, but what type of dollar amount we talking about?
Initially, we were talking about something that was pretty reasonable in the actual cost. The initial cost was about $1,500 to $2,000 per site, and then it was going to be probably another $200 to $300, per point of monitoring. So we think that it's going to be pretty reasonable, but we are looking at too, Councilman Joseph, of maybe trying to upgrade the system just a little bit to have something that'd be a little more smart ready. But we think it's going to be within that particular price range, okay? The thing that's going to cost the most would be actually the pressure transmitters and those things that we'll be purchasing with a CWEF grant.
Okay, all right.
So what's the overall dollar amount, Ken? You said what the individual thing is.
Bill, do you have an overall dollar amount you think, Cindy?
Off the top of my head, I'd say between 60,000 for all the equipment and the monitoring. The monitoring is based on the number of units you monitor.
Right.
We're looking at 8 units to start off with pressure and.
But in general, about 60,000.
Right.
Okay.
And that's kind of total build out.
Right.
That's total build out of everything.
And all of that's funded by the grant.
Yeah. That's our goal, is to purchase all that by the grant.
Cool, all right, thanks.
Any other question? All right, moving on to item number 9, wastewater discharge location. Mr. Carl, what this gentleman, if you remember last meeting, I asked a question about, we had some issues, or if you want to call it issues, we've got some situations where folks are putting sewer discharge, point source discharges into side ditches and so forth and so on. And so I asked Mr. Parrington to look at that as well as the utilities department. And so Mr. Carl's going to give us an update on what they found.
Well, we haven't found much. I've tried to get a hold of Steve Wider with the DHH local to get an update on what type of criteria they use to determine which direction the discharge lines are going. He's been out of the office or in the field and hadn't returned my calls yet, but I'm staying on top of him on that. And typically, when a resident puts in builds a house or puts in a system, the direction they go in is usually determined by where their facilities are, and they try to get to the closest to the outlet of the toilets and the facilities in, and get to the proper drainage ditch. And that's usually out of the plumber or the resident that try to make that call. And I don't know yet of any ordinance that we have that regulate that.
Yes, we
Mr.
do have
Parrington
an
found
ordinance.
something today, I believe. He can
Section
bring.
1811, Section 18119.3 says that anybody who's building a home that's going to require an individual sewer system needs to submit their plans to us, and we approve where it goes.
18.9 what?
18119.3.
Then,
Mr. Joseph?
yeah, Mr. Parrington.
Yes.
And I guess everybody they do that, but it only goes to DHH. Every house that I have put in goes to DHH, and I just don't know if it.
It's not making it.
They have to submit our building plans to us. That's what
but-
the ordinance says. Well, we just need to make sure
I
they're
know
doing
what you're
that from
saying,
now on.
but I'm just saying from my experience in this, and every last trailer a mobile home or house in my district, that drawing goes directly to the health union or DHH over there, and they have that. And and what happened is they call up our permit place and say, this is good. And then that's how they get the rest of it. I mean, they communicate,
Right.
but
But under our ordinance, we have the right to tell them where to go.
So I think what we need to do with this is basically close the loop. I think, Kim, what I would like to see going forward from the administration is some kind of policy or procedures in place. Because we don't necessarily, everybody needs to know what the criteria is. And so we've got to come up with a procedure that tells them what the criteria is. Again, what we're trying to avoid is that you go down a road and you got some people discharging to the back, you got some people discharging to the road, you got some people discharging to the front. And so you wind up putting sewage on multiple sides of people's residences, as well as when and if we get a parish-wide sewer system in place, where you gonna run where you gonna run your mains at? You're gonna run them along the road, typically is what they do. But if we have a subdivision, for example, that has houses that's got a servitude between the back of the houses, and that's where they're running their sewage to, then that's where we'd run that line at, in order to conserve some cost on those type of things, not only to the resident, but also to us, as far as trying to get that system in place. So if we could, let's work on that and have something for us at next month's meeting as far as procedures or criteria for what, and then let's also work with DHH to close that loop to where they get the permit and say, yeah, this is what they're gonna have to do. They're gonna have to put a treatment system in, or they're gonna have to upgrade from a septic tank to a treatment system, or whatever that they, and the rest of the stuff that they govern. But before the permit is issued, tail line selection goes to utilities department, and someone within that file, when that procedure dictates where that tail line ultimately ends up at.
Will do.
Mr. Joseph?
And that also, just in that tail line, it normally goes to a drainage right away, or parish or state. So I would put the drainage department in there to verify that they are, truly have right away. Because if it just go to permits and they say, okay, but once again, we don't know what ditch they're going in. So we need to check the map to see if it's good.
Anyone else?
Will do.
Okay. Going to item number 10, update on Highway 42. Mr. Carl, while you're up there.
Okay. Right now, Highway 42, the original contract, it's in its final phases. We have yet to commission the pump stations because Energy has not gotten the poles moved and powered up and have gotten power to them. And that is, all the testing's been completed, and we're near getting that one closed out. The additional work on the east end towards Muddy Creek is progressing under a force account, which means we've literally taken over the control of the project and are dictating how they do it and when they do it to make sure that they get it done, because they basically are doing it under protest. And I think we had estimated $746,000 is what it was going to take them to do that work at this point in time. And we've only got about a month left, and we still got approximately $370,000 left. So they're getting that. We're getting that in under budget, and they are proposing to be complete by the end of next month, by the end of April.
What are they protesting?
They did not want to do the work. They wanted to get out of the contract, finish the original project, but they were bound to it because of DOTD regulations.
Okay. Any questions?
Carl, you mentioned Entergy.
Yes.
Is they holding things up? Do we need to be in touch with them?
We are constantly
them a
in
little
touch
bit?
with them, and we've got them moving, and they've got all of them but one, and we are making sure that we're not going to start commissioning them until we get all of the pump stations powered up.
Thank you. Yeah, that 746 is coming out of us, correct? That's
Right, correct.
that's part of the project.
All right.
Yeah. Anything else, gentlemen? Okay, thank you, Carl, appreciate that.
Okay.
We'll move on to item 11, Livingston.
I can
I'm
handle
sorry.
it.
You
Mr.
want to
Scott,
do
yeah,
stuff?
I can-
Okay,
yeah.
let's back up then. I see John's got it on the screen. Let's go ahead and do the Livingston franchise agreement first, or proposal rather. Mr. O'Neill Parrington.
It's just Livingston Gas is coming in and asking to also be able to sell gas in the parish. This is the first step. I told them, they sent the paperwork in, I said it had to go through the Utilities Committee, and then from there, it had to go forward. They've got to do all their advertising and everything like that before it would come up to you.
Okay, so do we need to take action
We
to
just
send
need to
this to
move
the
it to the-
council?
Yes, move that to the council to authorize them to move forward.
I guess, O'Neill, if you're gonna be in touch with them, and we were
Yeah.
talking before, there's a lot of typos and issues with that ordinance that they need to
Yes.
correct
Yes.
before, I would recommend that,
They're gonna have to do the proper advertising and everything like that.
right? Mr. Joseph?
Okay, Mr. President,
Yes.
are we giving them right-of-ways, our right-of-ways in this here,
That's what they pay the franchise fee for,
okay, well, how much is that franchise fee?
5%.
All right.
And they may not be able to do any business, they're just asking to be the ability to do business.
Okay.
Mr. Councilman Kluwat's in the audience, had a question?
Yeah, real quick, Benny. O'Neill, this franchise, this is this, when somebody gets a franchise, this is not for any section, this parish-wide?
Right. They can go do business wherever they want,
Yeah,
but they gotta go, they've gotta go hustle a business, just like Demco and Energy do.
yeah. I just want to make that clear for everybody.
Okay.
Thank you.
All right, any other questions? All right, we're gonna go back up to item number 5, DHH sanitary survey. Mr. Dawson.
Yes, I can handle that for Ms. Kayette. DHH performed a sanitary survey recently, I think several weeks ago, out in our systems. And I just want to tell this committee that, we passed with flying colors. Everything looked great. They also look at all your documentation to make sure that that's taken care of, and it is. So the last surveys have proven very well, and they continue to do that. So my congratulations and to the staff and utilities who have really done a great job. Early on, it wasn't quite like that, so now it is.
So what systems did they look at, Ken?
They look at the water system AC on St. James and Assumption.
Okay, did they look at the east side as far as the two systems we have over here? That's
Well,
different?
That's different. That's kind of being handled under the responsibilities of Ascension Water.
Okay.
Okay, so they handle that.
Fantastic. Any questions? Mr. Joseph?
Okay, do they do anything with sewage, Kent? Do they have any type of inspection or anything that?
They do, but not as often as it is with the water.
Okay.
It's different than well, I don't want to be stuff going out and stuff going in. You know what I'm saying? When you put something into the body, a lot more things that you're looking at. So they do things, they do treat. So in fact, we have to give certain reports. There's certain samples that have to be taken. There's certain samples that have to be sent to a certified lab and everything that's sent to DEQ, DHH, and they monitor those kind of things. So we have to do that with the sewer. But as far as many spot checks, they do spot check, but not quite as often they do on the water side.
And I just want to compliment your employees too. They doing a great job. I know I don't get that many phone calls no more. So hey,
That's right.
they're doing a great job. Appreciate it.
Thank you, sir. Thank you.
Anything else, gentlemen? Okay, moving on to item number 6, the ACUD1 chlorine residual. Mr. Dawson?
Yes, sir. Thank you, Mr. Chairman. If you look at the graphs that you have before you, I am just elated about what I've been seeing as far as.
We have to go back to our emails because the paperwork's not in front of us. But,
Oh, you go back to
we
email. Oh, okay.
Yeah.
I don't have
Imagine.
one of the new.
You have your
But-
email? Okay.
yeah, did everybody get a look at those in the email?
Okay,
So-
wonderful. That's what you did. Let me tell you something. I tell you what, I'm very pleased with what I've been seeing as far as chlorine residuals on the system. You want me to get up here?
Put them on the screen.
Yeah, I can put them on the screen.
Use some of that technology.
Yeah,
we
use
got
our
here.
technology. We
Use
got in the
technology,
meeting.
huh? That's right, huh?
You're looking at
Okay.
St. James and.
This is the St. James total chlorine, and if you notice, this is 1 ppm, 1 part per million, or 1 milligram per liter. and this is at 2.5 at the top of the graph. Our goal is to maintain over 0.5. And you can see that we've done a great job of doing so, not to exceed 4, okay? Now, I'm talking about systems that at one time we barely were able to get 0.5. We would be lucky if we even see a trace, previously. But this has been just excellent. I do think some of this is attributed to the chlorine burn that we did that helped kind of sterilize the system. So the actual biocide demand is not as high as it used to be. So we are very pleased with what we're seeing coming into these summer months, coming into issues where the chlorine demand is going to get higher because higher temperature also depletes, chlorine residual. But seeing this coming into it, we're elated about what we're seeing. The second is the one other thing I want to tell you about this one. Over on the green line here, okay, I think that's over at John Folt's place, okay? At one time, we never had any residual there. But now that you're seeing it, it's around 1 here and then, about, 0.85 or 0.9 there, which is higher. We are very satisfied with what we're seeing. And this is the assumption, chlorine residual, and the same thing. You can see that even though there was some issue here that caused a drop, it still never got, below the 0.5, and then it was corrected to take it up. I want to say that the staff and the people at the water department are monitoring, they're flushing when they need to be, they're checking their residuals, and again, they're doing an excellent job in making sure they maintain a proper biocide treatment.
Fantastic.
Great.
Okay. Super. Any questions or comments? All right. Is that covering the chlorine booster system also, Ken?
Just real quickly, just to tell you.
Item number 7.
On the chlorine booster system, we are moving forward with that. Again, I think that because we've done a good job with our actual sterilization, doing our burn, and also our providers of water are doing a better job making sure that their residuals are higher that they send to us. But we committed to put a booster system in, and we're moving forward with that. I think the goal is to have that installed by May, so that when we get to the height of our summer months, that will be there just in case we need it. And as this committee knows, that was due to the amoeba and making sure that we're able to elevate those chlorine residuals to do a burn if we need to without having to go through the issues we did last time. So that's being done. Again, gentlemen, that's being paid for by a grant.
Mr. Joseph.
Yeah, and I just want that booster station going to be in by Lemonville Park, where
Yes, sir.
the water come in at, and it actually served that small community and the jailhouse.
Yeah.
And once again, that was a problem we had with it with the jailhouse. So this here hopefully will solve that problem in the near future.
It will, sir.
So
Yes,
once
sir.
again, thank you on that.
Well,
Okay, we've swapped these around. Item 13, update on the private-public partnership. Mr. Dawson.
yeah, that is continuing to move forward, gentlemen, with the public-private partnership issue. One of the actions that you'll be taking tonight, will continue that process moving forward by the recommendation of a selection of a owner's rep. One thing that was required was that that we had to have that particular entity in place, to begin further discussion. So this action will allow us to just kind of take one step further to actually get to the point that we can start looking at the conditions of the contract, looking at terms and conditions, and those sort of things. There's some information that we're still requesting. Our legal department is waiting on some information, and that we've been told that they're going to have it. So again, they wanted to make sure that we had the owner's rep in place.
Fantastic. Going back to item, item number 12, selection committee recommendations. Ms. Jones Shivers.
Good evening. Good evening. On February 23rd, 2016, the Purchasing Department received 5 proposals for the P3 negotiation and implementation services. On 3/4/2016, the non-engineering selection committee was convened, and you'll find attached there the score sheet. I have highlighted for you the top 3 scores from All South, Burt Klein Peter, and CDM. The non-engineering selection committee bases their recommendation solely on the high score. These results are offered for your consideration and recommendation. Purchasing is required to oversee all committee, all RFQ and RFP meetings to make sure that parish policy is followed. And Ken Dawson will be answering any questions related to the project.
Thank you, Ms. Jones. Just for, excuse me, public knowledge, and what we've done here, put out an RFQ for assistance to help negotiate, represent us, from the technological as well, whether you want to look at financials or the engineering side, to make sure as we go through the negotiations with the partnership for the 3P for the sewer system, that we understand and we're not making any bad decisions, or make sure we understand all the ramifications of the decisions that we're making. And the financial end of this thing recommended that we have this in place. And as I understand it in my conversations with Mr. Dawson, Parish President Matassa, it's going to start off with a kind of in a task order type situation where obviously if we don't sign a contract, we don't need anything beyond that. So it'll start off with work to do the contract negotiation. And so you hear that talk of $750,000 or $750,000 for the cost of this. It's not what we're looking at initially. We're looking at whatever the cost would be negotiated to help us negotiate just the contract. And then if the contract is signed in, we'll proceed from there as necessary. So that's kind of an explanation of what we're trying to accomplish with this. So with that, the chair will recognize comments or a motion.
Motion.
Mr. Joseph.
I recommend CDM to represent.
Okay, we have a motion to, and basically what we're doing is make a recommendation to the full council. The full council is the one that will select this. So we have a motion from Mr. Joseph to recommend CDM as the selection.
Second.
Second by Mr. Turner. Discussion. Mr. Cagnolati.
These scores are very close, and I think, and just from my own personal view of the situation, CDM's a good firm, nationwide firm, headquartered in Massachusetts, and a company that's very, very close in the score. Matter of fact, they were higher in the score. Is a Louisiana-based firm. So I'd like to offer a substitute motion, or a motion that we introduce not one but 2 of the finalists to the full council.
Okay, so you'd like to,
All South and CDM.
okay, so you'd like to make an amendment to Mr. Joseph's motion to add All South as a recommendation to the full council.
Correct.
Do I have a second on that?
It's not a second, but can I offer a friendly amendment to Mr. Cagnolati's motion?
Sure.
I would like to see that we include in our recommendation to the full council the top 3 engineering firms that responded to the RFQ, and if we could put the graph up, I'll give you my reason why. I ran an analysis, and I won't go into depth in respect to our chairman who's asked me not to do that, but I will just say the statistical analyses of the top 3 companies showed that they had scores of 87, 86, and 82.75 respectively, and that not being statistically different, I would like to make the substitute motion that we send all 3 of these forward and let the council make a decision based on that. The other 2 companies that were up there briefly and on your screen were different, both being lower than the top 3, one of them being even lower, the 5th one, than the 4th one. So my motion would be that we send CDM, which is the original motion, All South, and BKI forward at this stage and let the full council make the decision.
Just for clarification, so what we've got is CDM Smith scored 344, Stewart Consulting Group 267, Loop Capital Financial 180, All South 348, and then Burt Klein Peter 331. So your top three was All South 348, CDM Smith 344, and Burt Klein Peter 331. Now, Mr. Dawson and Mr. Parrington, correct me if I'm wrong, and the top three is what they normally bring to the council anyway. This is just a recommendation as far as if this committee has a preference on which one we would like to recommend to the full council. So let's go back to Mr. Cagnolati's real quick, since he made a substitute motion or an amendment to Mr. Joseph's motion to add All South to the recommendation to the full council. Do we have a second on that?
Mr. Chairman,
Mr.
I can
Cagnolati.
amend that motion to add BKI as well.
So you're seconding my motion?
I second Doc's amended motion. I withdraw my motion, Mr. Chairman, and second Doc's motion.
So he withdraws his. Councilman Sally recommends that the top three vote getters get recommended to the council without any prejudice from this board. Mr. Cagnolati seconds that motion, so we're going to vote on the substitute motion first. Let's talk about discussion. Any discussion on that first before we do a vote? Mr. Joseph.
And my discussion is on that. I mean, is that, once again, here we are not making a decision. All we're doing is dragging it down the road. I mean, I hate to be this direct in that, but it's either you're going to choose an individual or your company or identity. You have to make a decision up here. And that's my bottom line with it. If we're going to remake, it don't need to come to us no more. We can go back the old way, you know? I mean, I thought this process was, and this party would make a decision and recommend one, but I find out we starting to do this all over again. It's just saying, you know, hey, bypass your committee and just send it all to the council, you know? And that's all I'm starting to see now with us as councilmen. Make a decision. I'm pretty sure I'm going to make a stand on this in here regardless. May be right, may be wrong. Some people may like it, may not. But once again, we have to make a decision. That's what I feel like. That's all, Mr. Chairman.
Mr. Sally.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. And Oliver, I want you to know I have every appreciation for your remarks and your feelings. I asked legal counsel already, but I'll ask again. I was under the impression also coming to this meeting that we had to pick a winner. I've been informed, and I don't want to speak for Mr. Parrington, that that's not necessarily the case. The ordinance doesn't say we have to do that. So I just would ask Mr. Parrington, can we send 2 or more of these individual RFQs forward tonight, or do we have to pick a single one, sir?
The ordinance says the governing authority reserves the right to accept any applicant that the selection board is deemed qualified and has met all the requirements of the request for proposal or request for qualification. So, and you could send all 5, you could pick 1, you could do 3, you can do whatever you want to do.
Thank you, sir.
Anything else?
Mr. Chairman. Yeah, thank you. You know, we're going to have 2 or 3 rounds here. I'd like to also say it's not that I think we're in any way shirking any duty here tonight. The word I think key is recommendation. That's all this is, and the full council is going to have to make a decision anyway. The difference is we can either send a message that we want to pick one singular company, in this case the one that got the second highest points, albeit by a singular mean point, or as the chairman has pointed out, by 4 points in sum, if we go with CDM over the number 1 company, All South, or if we go with the recommendation that I have made as a motion and Mr. Cagnolati has seconded, we can send 3 that were statistically tied by my analyses, and then let the full council have a full discussion and pick amongst those 3. So I don't think we're shirking duty there. We're just making the recommendation a little broader. It is, as we just learned from legal counsel, consistent with our ordinance covering the same. And, you know, the chips can fall where they may at our next meeting. And thank you for listening.
Any other discussion? Okay, so we'll have a vote on a substitute motion to send all 3 or the top 3 companies to the full council with equal recommendation. Is any Any opposition? Mr. Joseph?
Roll call.
We have a request for a roll call. Madam Secretary, do a roll call, please.
Councilman Turner,
We need to make sure exactly what we're gonna vote on.
We're
When we
voting
vote
on-
now, we're voting for,
You're voting for the recommendation to send the top three vote getters or the top three ranked members to the full council.
no,
Councilman Satterley,
Yes.
Councilman Joseph,
No.
Councilman Cagnolati.
Yes.
Chairman votes.
Don't you love us, Benny?
I love this, don't you?
Oh, come on, you know you love us.
At the end of the day, I mean, that's what's gonna happen anyway. I feel as similar to what Councilman Joseph said. I mean, I think, not going to a full council with a recommendation of one company is fine, or is not necessarily what we need to do, but at the end of the day, I think, the full council is gonna make that decision. I will support the motion, kinda hesitantly, but, I'll vote yes. So with that, that motion passes. Moving on to item number 14.
Motion to adjourn.
Motion by Councilman Sadler, second by Councilman Turner. We are adjourned.